Namaskar, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. I have someone with me. All of you recognize Ambassador Kanwal Sibal, who's been on the channel and given us his very amazing views. Always helped us to kind of guide through these geopolitical situations. Sir, thank you so much once again for your time.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Always an honor to have you on the platform. Sir, I wanted to ask you, uh, new ambassador, Biden took what, 3 years to appoint someone? This guy sends his so-called, if I may, handyman, the personnel handyman, and who's pretty much still not cleared with his security requirements. How do you think this is happening, and what's the game behind?
Well, the fact that he's now sending an ambassador in principle is a good thing because our relationship has become problematic and there's no guiding hand from New Delhi uh, for the White House and the State Department to communicate effectively what are the pitfalls of some of the things that Trump is doing and the repercussions of that. And also to be able to gauge public opinion, political opinion, which is very negative, and communicate that to his boss. Uh, I don't know to what extent Shadid affairs here and this and that would want to wade into this and send some uncomfortable messages to the White House. That's one part of it. So it's a good thing that an ambassador is coming, but there are problems in this appointment. One big problem is that he's going to wear two hats: one ambassador to India, another special envoy for the uh, South Asian, South Asia, and Central Asian regions. Now, this is very bizarre. It has never happened before. Normally countries give responsibilities to their ambassadors in one big country in a region, and then concurrently accredited, accredited them for to the other smaller countries in the region because of economic reasons, because they don't have that much interest in smaller countries around a bigger country. We do that also. So you give concurrent accreditation where the ambassador periodically visits and sees what the potential is of increasing cooperation, etc. But India is a huge country. Their embassy here is one of the biggest they have in the world. And the extent and the range of ties is so big. The kind of things that we are doing with America, we are not doing with any other country. And then they have these several consulates in the country. So the job is such that it'll need all his attention. And then you give him this double hat that you're also going to be special envoy for this entire region, uh, which means that you're not going to be sufficiently occupied with your responsibility in India. So we'll give you a much wider responsibility. It doesn't make sense, but it makes sense in another sense, in another way, which is that he says that he is appointing him, and he praises him a lot in the announcement he made, that he is going to implement his agenda. Now, his agenda is very problematic for us, as we have seen. Now, the no ambassador goes to another country to actually promote a unilateral agenda of the country that is being sent. This is not. You have to find a biomedia. You have to find a balance. You have to see what the agenda of your host country is and where the two agendas can actually find common ground, and you build on that. And so far as we know from what the actions he's taken, his agenda has become very negative. He's applying 25% tariffs on us, more than in the neighboring countries, and on top of that, making an issue of our relations with Russia, both on the oil side and the defense side, and announcing an additional penalty of 25%. Now, if his agenda was positive, friendly, forward looking, constructive, fine. Then we will be happy with an ambassador coming with that kind of a writ that this is my positive agenda, so you have to promote it. But if he comes with a negative agenda, as we know, as we see, then we have a problem because the ambassador new ambassador can't sort of go outside the framework of the agenda that has been given to him. The other point in this is that in the announcement that he made, there is no positive word about India at all. Uh, Normally, you say that I'm choosing a man, close to me, and this and that, and he's going to a country which is important to us. We have such strategic ties with that country, and we will build up stronger relationship with that country, and this is my man for that job. This is a normal thing to do, but he doesn't say that at all. Nothing about India.
He says populous region in the world.
It's the focus is on the personality of this fellow who worked very close to him, and not the country to which he's going. That he's more important than the country to which he's going. But more than that, or equally so, as you said, he said that is the most populous region in the world. That also is bizarre. That he's not sending him to India, he's sending him to the most populous region in the world.
That's India, China.
No, he's only saying South Asia and Central Asia, is not including China. So populous region on the world. What does that mean? The only person who has said something to denote the importance of the country to which the new ambassador is going is Rubio. He said we have an important relationship with India. But all the others who are clapping on the sidelines and felicitating this man on his appointment as if they have to suck up to him and flatter him, all of them, very senior people, they have not mentioned the importance of India. In all what they have said, they have praised him that, you're a great fellow and stuff like that. Then the fourth thing is that, which is worrisome, is that Trump has made it very clear that he wants to mediate between India and Pakistan. Now, all his agenda of investing in Pakistan, in the oil sector, in rare earths, etc., is axed on stability of ties between India and Pakistan. Otherwise, it gets sucked into the India-Pakistan conflicts directly. So he has to, from his viewpoint, make sure that there is a peace, which means that he's going to, or he will want to, intervene actively in promoting peace between India and Pakistan. And when it comes to intervention for Pakistan, the most important issue is Kashmir. And even now, their leaders are saying that even their foreign minister said recently, yesterday or today, that we want to normalize ties with India, but we have to discuss all issues, including Kashmir. And since Trump has made his desire to mediate in Jammu and Kashmir, not only now, but when Imran Khan called on him during his first term, and repeating this now, and then uh, inviting Field Marshal, so-called Munir, to lunch at the White House, clearly shows that one of the mandates of this person who's coming would be to explore the possibility actively of normalizing India and Pakistan relations and advance peace negotiations between them and resolve outstanding issues. Then there is this issue of Bangladesh which has come up, although it is not Trump who destabilized Sheikh Hasina and the government there. But clearly now they are much more influential in Bangladesh. So when this man wears the hat of the envoy, special envoy for this region, which means that he will then be overseeing, interfering, directing, influencing the ties of our neighbors with us and our ties with them, which means America inserts itself actively. Earlier, they had done it largely only in Pakistan, and later, of course, in Bangladesh, but essentially Pakistan. Now, than inserting themselves far more actively in the subcontinental affairs, which means that they uh, they don't want to give India a free hand to uh, to manage the politics and economics and other uh, bilateral part of our relations with the individual neighbors. They'll insert themselves in. To what end? Is it to? Certainly, it's not to facilitate India's obvious, uh, how should I say, domination of the region, but actually to in a way undermine India's domination. So these are the concerns that are quite clear. Uh, Now, the other and the last part in this nomination and giving him the kind of two hats and making the appointment in the context of the South Asia and Central Asian affairs, which is the remit of the Bureau of South Asia and Central Asia in the State Department, uh, is is to also oversee relations between Pakistan and Afghanistan uh, and try and resolve differences between them. As it is, they declared the Balochistan Liberation Front and another associated organization as international terrorists, uh, which means that the whole idea is to strengthen the hands of Pakistan by using their influence. And when you strengthen the hands of Pakistan, then we know we have a problem
Mm.
because that encourages adventurism on the part of uh, Pakistan.
Pakistan.
Yeah, now with this kind of a rabid Hindu eating mullah Hafiz type field marshal Munir who wants to, you know, bring down half the world by using nuclear weapons. You will encourage him into some kind of misadventure. You could potentially do that. So all these are, uh, then we have this difficulty. Uh, it's another difficulty. Now let's see what his credential papers say. The credential papers cannot say he's a special envoy to the region because he's ambassador to India. There's no way that we can accept credentials which tell us to accept his special envoy role. We had rejected Holbrook's special envoy role for AFPAC, and now it is being brought in. This whole AFPAC business is being brought in a different way by combining, not having a separate person to do AFPAC business, but having the ambassador to India itself having that responsibility, and therefore we can't stand in the way. So therefore we have to see what his credentials say. But even if his credentials don't say that he's a special envoy, because that's a unilateral decision of United States, we can't tell them that you don't appoint a special envoy. We'll have a problem because if he's going to pursue that role of special envoy, uh, he cannot in his diplomacy here separate the two hats. So when he talks to us, inevitably, whatever his conversations with us and whatever the areas he wants to discuss with us, will have in the background also his role as special envoy. So how do we, when we deal with him, say, look, ambassador, talk to us only about bilateral affairs. We're not interested in what your views are on Pakistan, our relations with Pakistan or Nepal or Sri Lanka. We don't want to discuss regional affairs with you at all. We'll only discuss our bilateral affairs with you. That is the line we could take right at the start to warn him that don't try and you know uh, act
Yeah.
on behalf of other countries in terms of influencing our relations with them. These are the challenges we'll face. But let's see. Let's see how it goes. These are the kind of concerns that arise at this moment. But and finally, I would say that once he comes here and starts acting as a kind of a super envoy, I think he'll have a problem with the Indian press and public opinion and political opinion. And he'll soon realize that instead of stabilizing ties and improving the atmosphere, he's contributing to further deterioration because everything he does will be seen with some degree of suspicion. Now, I'm very surprised. I'm very, very surprised that they have not taken all these delicacies into consideration when they announced his appointment to the most populous country in the region as, as both ambassador to India and a special envoy.
So I mean, fair enough. Okay. The February meeting that took place, it was all about Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. All was well. Pakistan had a great fall with the mention in the joint declaration. Pakistan needs to be careful and so on and so forth. What changed from then to a point right now where they are saying, okay, no, we can't work with India anymore? What happened between these 3 months? And it just can't. Okay, fair enough. One of the things was Operation Sindoor and the potential hit on American assets within Pakistan, the humiliation, as per se, in quotes, by Prime Minister Modi towards Trump, not kind of acknowledging his role. Fair enough, can be taken, but you don't change the entire country's foreign policy because of something like this. One, you can't acknowledge, and two is a personal ego issue. So,
Well,
what
look,
changed?
look, what has prompted Trump uh, to actually hit so hard at his relationship with Europe, humiliate them, talk to them from a position of strength, almost contempt, that you don't matter. I'll push you. You sign on the dotted line. I'm going to impose 15% tariffs on you, and you're not going to impose any tariff, zero tariff, so far as I'm concerned. And you're going to buy $750 billion of LNG. You're going to invest $600 billion in my economy, and you're going to buy my defense material. And earlier that you're going to raise your defense expenditure from what 2%, 2.5% to 5%, right? It's so unreasonable. He's talking to him as if uh, he's the as an imperial power.
Hmm.
Look at the way he treated Canada. That actually, you better become the 51st state of the United States. You can't survive without me. That I don't need anything from you, but you need everything from us, and we're giving you free security, etc., etc. And then he tells Denmark, "I'm going to take over Greenland." So then he tells, and the manner in which he treated Japan and South Korea, he's imported tariffs on them, on both of them, one-sided, and actually humiliated them, and they had no choice. Now, if you look at this broadly, then his attitude towards India falls into place. That he's highly imbued with the sense of American power, the strength of the American market, and everybody anxious to have access to the American market, and tariff being a very potent non-kinetic weapon that he can use to bring others down to heel, and that he wants to tell his MAGA base that I promised we're not going to get involved in any more wars. We're going to build America itself. We're going to bring jobs home. We're going to bring manufacturing home. That requires peace. So I have a peace agenda. And therefore, and then, of course, as a corollary of that, he thinks he must get the Nobel Peace Prize. Uh, so that explains why he immediately took credit that I'm the one who forced the ceasefire on India and Pakistan and prevented a nuclear war. And the last count he has said this 29 times, maybe it's 30 times now. Uh, Now, where India did not oblige him was to say thank you very much by helping to obtain the ceasefire and credit to you, and we'll nominate you also for the Nobel Peace Prize. So he's extremely miffed that a major reason that he could give uh, as a success of his peace efforts, since the ones with Russia were not working, with Ukraine were not working. He was supposed to solve that in 2 days, but sort of, it had gone on for 7 months. So see, since he didn't succeed there, and since he was obliged to bomb Iran, and then he has this huge, which everybody else sees, uh, vulnerability by not at all wanting to make peace in Gaza. On the contrary, is allowing Israel to do what Israel wants, and their daily killings. Very concerned about killings in Ukraine, but no concern about killings in Gaza. Therefore, India sort of would have been for him a signal success which he could talk about, and we didn't oblige him, and he's felt very upset. And then, if what one hears is correct, that when our prime minister was in Canada for the G7 meeting, he had a telephone call with our prime minister and wanted him to come to Washington while he was entertaining the field marshal. And before that, he had talked about mediation, and the prime minister may have expressed his inability to do that, and he felt snubbed. Uh, and then uh, he had to have a reason to squeeze India, and then they invented this reason that you have been buying Russian oil. Now, as Jaishankar has said publicly the other day, that before the announcement of this 25% penalty, the American side never told the Indian side, don't buy Russian oil. Now, if they had given advance warning that we're warning you, don't buy, otherwise we're going to impose penalties. No, they didn't. And suddenly they imposed penalties. And he has said that I did that because I have to squeeze Russia. I've told Putin that I'm going to stop the biggest buyers of your oil, and this will affect you. And India has already stopped buying oil. He said that publicly, which is
Yeah.
not true. So he's in that mode that India has resisted. His ego is hurt. He wants to make India bend, do what he wants, so he can announce that I have put India in its place. I've squeezed India the way I've squeezed Europe, the way I've squeezed Canada, the way I've squeezed Mexico, the way I've squeezed Korea, the way I've squeezed Japan. That seems to be the problem. It's to my mind, it's not rational, but there it is.
But sir, Europe is okay. I mean, they come and do flattery. I just put out an analysis some time ago where I said Europe and Ukraine are using plain and simple overt flattery to kind of get this guy in the fold, and in the process, they are basically stuck on their demands. They're just not. They're not complying with any of the things that was agreed to by during their visits. So it's basically flattery beyond which nothing, and they're able to get away with it. So is that the solution?
Um, I think the Europeans feel very vulnerable.
Hmm.
The our case is different from any of the other things that I mentioned, countries that I mentioned, because all of them are dependent on the United States for their security. And with Japan and Korea, especially Japan, having a problem with China in the Western Pacific, and the Europeans having a huge problem with Russia in the Ukraine conflict.
Mm.
Uh, Both these entities are very vulnerable in terms of their security. They don't have themselves an independent capacity to stand up to the challenges that are there. And they know that if Trump, who's already in the past talked about, the importance of NATO is no longer there as it was the case earlier, and there have been fears expressed off and on by Western commentators that he may simply walk out of the NATO. And the Europeans are mortified by the fear that he may do that and leave them in the lurch. Alone, they cannot help Ukraine or stand up to Russia, and they've committed themselves
Yeah.
so much to the war in Ukraine and opposing and defeating Russia, that if the American cover was withdrawn, and they found that their policy was hollow, then they are answerable to their public. Uh, so in India is not in that position. While of course we are not strong, but uh, we vis-a-vis Pakistan, we can handle them. Vis-a-vis China, we found a kind of a modus vivendi where on the border we are challenging them, standing up to them, and keeping the dialogue open with them so that there is no need for a wider conflict or no situation of a wider conflict that's created. It's not an interest, not in our interest. It's not in China's interest. So security-wise, while we have problems, we have certainly problems, but they're not of the same kind
Mhm.
uh, that Europe and Japan have. So we can pursue our independent course in foreign policy, our strategic autonomy, etc., etc. Uh, Now, United Trump and actually there's another dimension to this. Why is Trump hitting out at BRICS? Because and the two key countries leave aside Russia and China because Russia and China are already declared as American adversaries. So there are three other countries who he has now put in a position of treating them as adversaries. That is Brazil, India, and South Africa.
That was my next question. Are we now American adversaries?
No, he's treating us as potential adversaries who can then, especially if this whole business of de-dollarization proceeds and the hegemony of the dollar is cracked, is countered, which then also means that their whole sanctions policy on which they have depended to get their way in the international system, that also loses its salience.
Yeah.
So uh, he threatened to, impose 100% tariffs on uh, on BRICS countries if they proceeded with de-dollarization and this
He
and
said,
that.
I thought you were dead.
But de-dollarization will happen not as something which would have been as a declared policy, but simply because United States imposes sanctions, it doesn't allow you to deal with to make dollar payments within the trading system that we have with other countries. And what do you do? Then you have to find alternative ways.
Yeah.
Then you use national currencies or you do something else. So you can't have it both ways. That I don't want de-dollarization, but I won't allow you to use the dollar. So so it will happen progressively, not immediately. It will happen progressively. We ourselves are now wanting to use more and more national currencies in settling some of our payment systems with select countries. So the thing is that he sees the danger ahead of BRICS becoming a countervailing force in the future. So he wants to create fissures within BRICS, and one way to create that fissure is to impose 25% penalty on India for buying Russian oil and Russian defense material. This is also that game, and he imposed 50% tariffs on Brazil, and Brazil. Uh, Lula is extremely upset. Now he openly talks about de-dollarization, and he wants to strengthen ties with India. Our Prime Minister's visit was a huge success. So, in
Yeah.
a sense, Trump is accelerating greater economic, political, and other forms of collaboration within BRICS, notwithstanding the fact that we have a problem with China, and there is a point beyond which we can't go uh, in terms of making BRICS take on the uh, profile of an anti-Western organization. That's not in our interest. In fact, the irony is, the irony is that our economic thrust, even now, is entirely towards the West. FTA with UK, prospective FTA with the European Union, some possibility of renewing discussions with Canada, FTA with Australia, which one can consider as part of the Western world. Uh, and then UAE and all that, again, one can consider them also as being in the Western orbit. So all our thrust is that side. And the other remarkable thing is that when it comes to BRICS. Uh, in fact, we have huge deficits with them. We have a huge deficit of 100 billion with China, and now over 50 billion or more with
ASEAN.
Russia. With Russia,
Yeah,
uh,
Russia and ASEAN also now.
and but our surplus is with whom? With the United States of America, balanced trade with the European Union. So this is the dilemma we have, that the BRICS countries won't buy our products. The major countries. Look at our bilateral trade with Russia. It's less than $5 billion. Now, even if you increase it 100%, it'll be just $10 billion. So huge. We have to manage a very difficult situation where we can't afford to step back from our relationship with the West. But at the same time, we can't put all our eggs in the Western basket, certainly not. And we have to have other options and develop them, because for the future, those options are very important in order to have a much more balanced international relations for India, of India. So this is the game that we have been playing. Coincidentally, when it comes to taking credit for the ceasefire, I was quite amused by the fact that the Pakistani foreign minister uh, said that no, no. In fact, he says that we asked for a ceasefire,
Probably
and
got his software updated in China, sir.
Americans had no role to play. We didn't ask the Americans to intervene on our behalf. That's very interesting.
Uh, that's what I'm saying. Probably got his software updated in China. So, and you said, you monkeys, we gave you everything. Now you're giving credit to Trump. What's wrong with you people?
Mhm.
So that could be one of the things. So, but one of the biggest challenges that he's facing now is, now there are people inside who are saying, "Yeah, what the hell are you doing?"
Mhm.
Right? There's enough voices asking that question. He's trying to silence them out. We saw John Bolton. I don't know if it's silencing or what it is. We saw Nikki Haley coming out and saying something, and then the next very day she kind of, took a U-turn. Um, I don't know. A lot of people say that it's pressure or whatever it is. So that means there is a resistance within the Republicans that don't do this. Stop, 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 stop. And they've not said that about Europe. They've not said that about any other country except for India. Now, do you see a break anywhere where this guy basically takes a U-turn, taco, as they call him?
Well,
Because why am I
one would.
asking?
Hmm.
I'm sorry if you don't mind. Uh, his whole dealing process has this cycle, and everybody's spoken about the art of the deal and many other papers that have been written. And he takes it to that point of no return and kind of brings it back down after that. So, do you see something of that sort happening? Is there going to be a Trump U-turn?
Theoretically, theoretically, yes, it can be. Uh, he's bold enough to actually take a
That's
to
the
take
thing.
a lot of risk and chart a new course in foreign policy. Look, I mean,
Yeah.
let's give him credit that he's wanting to normalize ties with Russia, move forward with Russia, despite the fact that within the system and within his
There-
own entourage, very, very strong anti-Russian feelings.
True, true.
But he's doing it. He's doing it. So he can go against the current. If he decides to change the direction of the current, he can do that theoretically.
Mm.
But at the same time, I think he might be feeling that India is not a problem, that I can squeeze India, that India is not a threat. Uh, I can squeeze them and I can change my position. I can humor them and I can sort of get back into the good books or something. He may actually believe that.
I
He
think
can,
so. I think
so
so. Mm.
yeah. So, but the point is that for the moment he's not showing any sign of this. Now, 27th August 27 would give us a little clarity if he decides that he's not going to impose 25% penalty for the time being. Uh, then I think a dynamism can develop where things can begin to sort of get less uncertain. But if he goes ahead and does it, which I don't think he will, but he could, then I think he is wrecking the relationship.
Mm.
Uh, Now, within his entourage, there are people who are extremely anti-Chinese. Uh, Chap like Elbridge Colby. He's another man who, when he welcomed the appointment of the ambassador, talked about the importance of relations with India. And these are the people who believe that we have to keep India on our side. We have to have an Indo-Pacific policy. We have to focus on China. And if Trump himself says, and he said publicly, that I want to reach out to Russia to undo what Biden did of throwing Russia into the arms of China, I want to draw Russia away from China. Now, if that is so, and if it's all confusing because Trump is not very rational, if that is so, then China is the main threat. And if China is the main threat, then why does he want to have problems with India and also, uh, in a sense, undermine the whole Indo-Pacific strategy of which was built by the United States over so many years, and in a sense, also make Quad irrelevant? Because I don't think this summit is going to be held in October.
I think I kind of subscribe to what you're saying. As a matter of fact, he really thinks that he can play around and amuse us a little bit, and probably get back by sweet talking. Something that makes quite a bit of sense uh, in his persona. Probably
Hmm.
it
Yeah.
does make a lot of sense that, and he's done that. I mean, if you look what he did with Rocket Man, for that matter. I
Hmm.
mean, they were almost pointing nukes at each other,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
then everything flipped and this and that. But one of the things I don't know, sir. I want to ask you. You worked with these guys. You worked with these diplomats. You've interacted with Americans quite a bit. And is there a understanding of what India is? Is there even the slightest understanding of India is? Do they have India experts with them? uh, as part of their foreign policy team who advise them this is civilizationally not all right, this is culturally not all right. Do
No,
they have?
I don't think so. They're not sensitive to these matters.
Wonder.
Now, there may be some people, maybe here and there, on the academic side, who may have some notions of this, but they are not. They can write, but they are not part of the decision-making system. Uh,
Hmm.
no, I don't think this whole. When it comes to China, there are people like that who studied Chinese civilization, who have expertise in that area, who are conscious of the civilization aspects of dealing with a country like China. But with India, no, I don't see that kind of sensitivity. Even this, if you are stuck on this dairy business, it is because they don't understand the inherent sensitivity of this, of feeding the bovine uh, animals with blood meals and this and that, and thinking it's all right. But that is one part. The other is that if you look at the think tanks and the media and the academic world, they have negative views on India, and they promote those negative views on India. And mind you, that they are not. They are people who are inside the system and hold very important positions and have influence. They are they are part of the larger decision-making process in the United States because, as you've seen, people move from the academic world and the media and the think tanks into the officialdom, and then vice versa.
Right. Yeah.
So, therefore, let's not fool ourselves into believing that when we have all these vicious attacks on us, on minority rights, on democracy, and concerns that the idea is to somehow put Modi on the defensive and undermine him and potentially, bring him down a peg or two, this and that and that. We have to look at how the larger American system looks at India, not simply good words, kind words, positive words here and there by some people
Mm.
who are occupying official positions, because behind them there's a whole body of people who are equivocal about India, negative about India, critical, human rights, religious freedom, all that kind of nonsense. So, uh, and then, although mind you, now there is increasing respect for India. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. And they see some of them. The corporate sector is positive. Now, this is important. The corporate sector in the United States is the only sector which is positive towards India, and they see the potential of India, and they
I
want to
always say so. Play with Wall Street.
get into the Indian market and this and that and that. Especially the Silicon Valley people, there there are a lot of, I mean, BlackRock and this and that. There was so much
Yeah.
funds at their disposal, and they're investing in India. The global capability centers that have been created, 1,700, 60% of them are American
Mm.
corporations who have set them up. So the corporate sector is, in a sense, much more receptive to uh, the idea of maintaining good ties with India. But he's now bludgeoned the corporate sector into some sort of submission also. When you see Tim Cook giving him a gold-plated whatever in the White House.
Is this just humor, sir? Because you know what? Tim Cook does that, and then all the iPhones for America will be produced in India.
Yeah, but
Google
he's
and says all sorts of stuff, but then the next day he declares $6 or $7 billion in India. Um,
yeah, because they think that they can commit themselves to, in the case of Tim Cook, setting up a big factory in the United States, as he has announced 600 $600 billion or something like that.
yeah,
They satisfy him on that account, but continue their international business. Because I put this on X myself
yeah.
about the uh, the amount of the size of the external market of the biggest American corporations. It ranges
Mm.
from 60 to 70%. So they have a huge amount of international exposure and interest in other economies, and they want to maintain that. Uh, in fact, many of them are wanting to go back to Russia. Given half the chance, they run back to Russia because they know there are huge profits there. So the corporate sector is something that we can leverage. Uh, the defense companies also we can leverage to some extent. But then, in the case of defense companies, we have to be very careful
Mm.
not to increase our dependence on the United States. We have learned now how United States can reverse its entire thinking and approach to India and create so much uncertainty in our minds as to what the future of the relationship would be. Now, if they get the grip on our defense, then we'll become even more vulnerable.
Mm.
So we have to be careful. But the defense companies are deeply interested in India because who else? They're not going to sell it to China. So Europe, yes, but if you look around the world, they're not easy
Europe
customers.
is broke, sir.
They're
You know,
not obvious customers for them.
Europe is
Uh,
broke. Yeah. So, lastly, when you see India is not remained quiet, but the hit back is very subtle. It's very nuanced. It's measured, but there is a hit back. You can see the impact happening. There is the talk right now, which I'm hearing through a lot of sources, is that not just the export diversification. Let's diversify imports as well. If the US wants to behave like that, let's just diversify. Simple as that. That's not a problem. So they've opened out that 50 country list, 30,000 crore benefit for the exporters. There's that. There's a lot which is happening at the back end. I'm sure they're picking all this stuff up. They're realizing, okay, there is a country who's not wanting to fight with you, but not wanting to take this nonsense either. Now, how do they adjust their game? They double down and expect a different result, or what do they do?
I think at the moment, Trump feels that he has the upper hand and he can squeeze India.
Ah,
He believes that
Superman. Hmm.
this tariff policy, and he keeps tom-tomming it as a huge success. That what does he say? He uses odd phraseology that all of them are. Did he actually say that they're all very keen to kisses, whatever? So there are so many people, knocking over each other to come and make offers to United States and this and that. So
Uh,
he has the upper hand, and India, he understands, needs the United States in many areas, and therefore they have, high technology, everything else, critical technologies, and everything else that we've been doing, the structure that we built up during the Biden administration and before, in terms of areas in which we could collaborate more and more. Defense, including defense, this, and then the mineral security initiative, and then uh, the defense thing. What was that? Another the industrial annex we signed. Then we are doing something else in terms of getting into the supply chains of the Pentagon. Uh, so, so there is since we have $200 billion of trade, and then the services sector, although they
mm,
have a minor surplus on the services trade with us, but our IT sector is virtually totally dependent on the US market. So there are sort of levers that Trump may feel the United States has, because we are. You see, the point is that if we sort of if the United States market becomes more problematic for us, what are our options? Our options are not China. Our options are not Russia. Our options is not Japan.
Global South mostly.
And Global South doesn't have the capacity. How many credit lines can you give to Africa?
Mm.
And Europe is a
Good
is an
option.
alternative, and that's what we should focus on, because Europe itself now wants to get out of the situation where they can be treated so
Mm.
uh, such contempt by the Americans, where they have to sit around the Oval Office as little
That
schoolboys
was that
attending
was
a lecture by the principal. So there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity there, certainly. But for the rest, yes, we can uh, explore other markets, but those markets don't have the capacity uh, to buy
mm, mm.
uh, sufficient quantities. There are certain technologies we can offer them, but that's pretty limited. And then when it comes to investment, we don't have that kind of capital where we can invest in these countries and create market for ourselves as the Chinese are doing. So it's an uphill task, but this is the road down which we have to go.
We have to go.
There is no other way. That we have to suffer some pain, but I think at the end of the day, we will emerge stronger, more self-reliant, more self-confident. Uh,
That's true, sir.
interesting thing is, there are two, three interesting things. One, of course, is that we have a huge internal market,
Yeah.
and it's an internal market that is growing because consumption levels will go up, and we are a consumer market, unlike China. So we
Mm.
are. So I think we have that buffer. Uh, Secondly, uh, we have uh, the uh, whole effort that we are making in terms of self-reliance
Mm.
and very advanced areas, semiconductors and this and that. We are actually focusing on it in a big way. Uh, and therefore, we'll develop those capabilities. Now, if what they say is true, that the largest number of people working on semiconductor chip design are Indians,
Yeah.
although they're working for multinationals. And the largest number of people working in the AI sector are Indians. Now, there is that material that we have, human material that we have. And if we have the right policies and this and that, we can build a very resilient economy. And so the the third is that we have to push our own industry to invest more in India, to do more
Mhm.
R&D, this and that. That's a challenge that government faces. Now we can't force them to do that, but there has to be a kind of a
Yeah.
national effort to do that. So that will also stand us in good stead. It'll take time. It'll stand us in good stead. So we are moving very rapidly in the energy transition business with much greater production of renewable energy. That also will address certain problems, issues
No
uh,
problems. Yes. Mm.
of the future. And then finally, and that's important, two things that our stock market has not reacted to the Trump threats, which is very important.
Yeah.
And secondly, our
Proof.
credit rating has improved. Even after the Trump announced whatever he did, our credit rating has gone up by Standard and Poor. They have raised it. And thirdly, the IMF and the World Bank say that it will not affect much
No
India's
threat. Mm.
growth rate, maybe 0.2, 0.5%. And that's it. So it'll be still 6% plus. So I think these are the silver linings uh, in terms of how we handle Trump's irrational attacks on us on the on the oil issue and on the tariffs issue.
Thank you, sir. This was very insightful, I must say. It's always a pleasure talking to you because one gets to learn a lot and think a little more as to what's happening. And this is the time for us, actually. We need to come up with new ideas, think, and kind of do what we can in this situation. Always a pleasure, sir. And
My, my pleasure. All the
thank you.
best. Thank you.
To the
Thank you.
audience, my request is please like, subscribe, and if you can, do contribute towards the channel. Namaskar.